taking a peek at the infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Chevrolet Blazer EV. This is the only infotainment screen that's available for the vehicle, and it's based off of Android operating system, which means you've got full Google Map capabilities inside of this vehicle and a lot of other great features. I'm going to show you everything that you need to know. So first thing is that you've got your volume rocker here. Just in behind the steering wheel, there are also buttons that you can use in order to be able to control the volume too. With the volume turned on, you could push the button along the very top of the screen in order to mute. You can do a longer push and hold to turn the screen off into this basic view, and then just a quick tap in order to bring it back to life again. So it's kind of neat you've got that available. But even with the screen toggled off there, climate control settings and these settings along the outside are always going to be there. So these settings, you've got your one pedal drive with different levels that are available. So you can either turn one pedal drive off, on, or high. And then on versus high is the difference of the regenerative braking. So you take your foot off the vehicle, you take your foot off the accelerator, the vehicle slows down very rapidly on different levels, or not at all. There's also a little paddle along the left-hand side of the steering wheel. You can push and hold that in order to be able to toggle on not one pedal drive, but a very aggressive a regenerative braking mode instead. You could hit this in order to turn the vehicle off. But with the vehicle turned on the way that it is right now, if you open up the driver's door, the vehicle is going to actually turn off. So if you want to make sure that the vehicle stays on for a period of time, all you're going to do, hit this little arrow, keep vehicle on. It's going to keep you running for up to 60 minutes as long as you have enough battery. And then from there, you can also control your high beams, because if you're in the auto mode there, what that means is that if you've got the auto high beams on, if the vehicle recognizes somebody's oncoming, it's going to turn them on before dimming them again. But when you're in the auto light mode here, you also can't permanently lock your high beams out. So there's no way to do it. You can flash your high beams, no problem. But in order to lock your high beams out, you actually have to be in the bottom light mode instead. So once you're in that mode, you could then flip away in order to permanently lock your high beams out, pull towards you to turn them off. So if you want them permanently turned on, just make sure you're out of the auto mode. But the auto high beam mode is a very useful one because, like I said, if the vehicle recognizes it's needed, it'll turn them on. If somebody's oncoming, dim them, and then bring them right back on again. So it's really smart from that perspective. You've got a series of different buttons along the very top here, and there's the option of adjusting it out. So all you're going to do is just button push and hold in order to customize the layout of these buttons. But as a default, it's your home screen. You've got this little split screen view. You can also swipe across there to get to some other views. You can edit out to show what's showing up in this main view as well. So by default, it's going to be factory navigation. You can have trip information and audio, things like that. I personally think having navigation makes the most sense, but that's going to be a matter of preference. And then you can get to so many different options here. You've also got this button, which is going to be different driver profiles. One of the big benefits of having multiple profiles set up is that you'd be able to do things like lock it. And then if you've got all of your addresses saved, if you've got your phone hooked up and all things like that, you'd essentially be able to lock it so that people can't just look through your screen. So it's very useful from that perspective. You can also control your accounts. So you can add in an account. So again, if you've got multiple people driving the vehicle, you can set up your own unique accounts for everybody. It'll remember your presets, previously saved destinations, if you're logged into your Google account, and so many other things. But if you're the only one driving, not a big deal. There's a notification bar, so if notifications were available, and then you could, swipe up, Bueller. There we go. Perfect position. Swipe up to get rid of it. Here's your current location, current time, and then the outside temperature as well. You've got climate controls here with a few different options along the very bottom. So you can adjust your climate out this way. You could have the passenger side to something different or sync it up to the driver. You could adjust your seats as well. So do you want your ventilated first row, heated first row seats going at what level? So there are 3 unique settings. And that's the same for the driver passenger side. You could turn on your heat, air circulation, adjust your fan speed. Do you want it going to your windshield face feet? Some sort of combination as well. And then one cool thing, so you saw it there, you could also hit this button in order to get to some advanced climate control settings. So you've got all of your basic controls down here, but you can also jump into this mode to just get a slightly different view in comparison. It's kind of cool. And then you can adjust a few things. I always just recommend keep these turned on for these ones, defog, defrost, things like that. These ones are kind of cool. So cool ventilated seats at startup or heated seats on startup. So summertime, you want to make sure these are turned on. One benefit of that, you go to turn the vehicle on, it's automatically going to turn on your ventilated seats, automatically turn on your heated seats as well. It's actually pretty cool, but you've got options available. And then you've got all of your climate controls through the screen here, but you've also got the option of adjusting it this way too, down the middle. You can toggle it on off, put it into an auto mode, adjust your fan speed, windshield defroster, rear defroster, etc. Now, you could control all of your climate this way, but you've also got the option of pushing the voice command prompt on the steering wheel there in order to be able to adjust your climate this way. You could turn the heated steering wheel on or off this way if you want to. There's a button right there, but you could do so many different things, adjust your climate and things like that, using the little voice command prompt on the steering wheel. But enough of that. Let's dive in. I'll show you everything that you need to know about the vehicle. So let's start off on, I guess audio would probably make the most sense, and we'll just kind of go through as we go. So audio, you can hit this button to get to a series of different audio settings, which I'll touch on in a second, but these are all of the currently saved in presets. So if you wanted to be able to save another station in, it's actually really straightforward to do. So you can see here I've got a mix, so AM, FM, SiriusXM. You could hit this button in order to change to any other source that you'd like to. So things like USB music, if you had a USB stick with MP3s on there, that would show up. If you're on AM, you could tune to stations this way. And in order to save a preset, you could hit the little star icon to do it. But let's say if you've tuned to a station, if you wanted to save it in any other spot, all you could do, push and hold there in order to overwrite any of the existing settings. So it's really straightforward to do. If you're in SiriusXM, you've got a few other options available. So you've got related content to whatever song or station you're currently listening to. You could pause it if you wanted to. Phone charging, just because I've got a phone on the wireless charge pad down the center stack there. And then from there, you can hit this to get to a category view. So do you want music, sports, news, talk, artists, things like that? You've got that available. You can hit this little button in order to get to a series of other options. So tune to start. Do you want to start the song from the beginning when you tune to the new station? And then just basics, location services, and things like that. But that's straightforward. You can hit this button in order to get to a few options. So manage your favorites. And this is where you're going to go in order to be able to delete presets. So let's say if you've accidentally saved in a station and you don't want it, you can delete it. But it leaves a little hole. So you could technically even drag up if you wanted to really customize this and make it your own. So you're just doing a drag and drop there in order to do it. And you can drag and drop them any way. So whatever way makes the most sense for you. And then as mentioned, if you wanted to, you could easily just delete stations that way instead. There are a series of different sound settings, bass, treble, mid-range. You do not want your vehicle looking like this. So something where your bass is cranked by like 3 or 4 points, treble is down a couple points, mid-range-ish, something like this tends to give pretty good audio inside this vehicle, in my opinion. But you want to adjust this to whatever sounds good to your ears. But you don't want bass cranked too much. You don't want your treble up or down too much. Something like this, I think, works well in this vehicle. And then from there, you can either do a little fade versus balance. You can have it focus on the driver, passengers, rear, back, etc. Recenter it instead. Really straightforward. And that's the basics of using audio inside the vehicle. So you can see there, we adjusted some of these stations out. And then from there, back home. Next up, you've got factory navigation inside the vehicle. Factory nav is Google Maps. And one cool thing, you can hit this little icon there in order to sign into your Google account. One of the benefits there is that if you've been on your phone and you've searched for addresses through Google Maps that way previously, any of your previously searched for addresses will show up inside of your Google account. It's really, really great. You can hit this icon there in order to do things like avoid things on the route, so avoiding highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that. You can show traffic information, whether or not you get upcoming turns. So if you've got a route going, do you get, so unmuted, so you're going to get a turn notification, so letting you know to turn in 300 meters, I should say. Oh, 300 miles is far, but 300 meters, whatever the case may be. You can just get a ping, so as you come to an upcoming turn, it's going to let you know for an alert, or you can mute it out completely. You can adjust your different heading views there instead if you'd like to. So it's straightforward. And then you can easily search for addresses. You can search for charge stations here that are available because this is the electric vehicle. You can look to see if restaurants are available nearby. So just basic point of interest icons. You can also hit search in order to search for different destinations. So if you wanted to find something like a Tim Hortons, you've got that flexibility. It's kind of nice. And then you can just select any one. It's going to show you different routes that are available. So if you hit this little button there, that's going to let you change between the route that you end up taking. And you can get into route options to avoid highways, toll roads, ferries, things like that. And then you can also add a stop. And the benefit there is, let's say if you wanted to go to Tim Hortons, but within Tim Hortons, maybe you wanted to stop at an EV charge station instead. Same idea. You've got different options available. So you could select any of these options. You can add a stop if you want to. So you've essentially got your end destination. You can also do a drag and drop in order to change it around. So if you wanted to stop at the charging station first before going to Tim Hortons, you can do that. You can hit done and then start, I should say, and that's going to start the route that you've set up there. So it's straightforward. And then one nice thing is that when you've got an active route going, inside of the head-up display, it also shows you your turn-by-turn directions there. And then inside of the cluster screen, if you hit over, look at this, full mapping cluster. So you could also have your directions showing up there instead in a few different spots. So depending on the view that you take, that's going to show you your turn-by-turn directions there. But I love that you've got the flexibility to really customize it. But yeah, full mapping cluster looks so good. And then in order to cancel the route, you can hit cancel there if you want to. You can remove the next stop. You can completely exit navigation if you want, or hit the voice command prompt, cancel route.
Stopping navigation.
And you can do it that way instead. So it's straightforward. It's Google Maps. So you can search by GPS coordinates first. So latitude first, longitude second if you really wanted to. And then you can search by point of interest icons. You can look at category views, saved addresses, and things like that. So I know that that's a lot of info, but that's how you utilize factory navigation inside the vehicle. I love that it's based off of Google Maps, and it is so responsive. Moving back home. Next up is going to be adding in a phone. So as of right now, no phones are connected. So let's start off on the Apple side of things. What we're going to do, hop into Manage Phones, and you can see there, no phones are currently connected. So we're just going to go Add Phone. You're looking for whatever your vehicle name is there. So we're going to Connect. Pair, numbers match up. So we're going to hit Pair and Pair. Look at that. So I'm connected there. Do I want to allow my contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm definitely saying no to that one. And I'm connected over Bluetooth. Hitting options there. I've got a series of other options here. So first to connect, connection type. You can forget your phone and things like that. So there are quite a few different options available here. One unfortunate thing is that GM has decided to ditch Apple CarPlay inside of the vehicle. So you don't have the option for Apple CarPlay at all. So you can connect in order to make phone calls and things like that, receive text messages, but there's no Apple CarPlay support. So wired, wireless, whatever the case may be, there's no app or anything like that that you could download in order to be able to set it up. So you could at least make phone calls, which is good. You could run off of Google Maps if you wanted to, and then you could download additional apps like Waze and things like that if you run off of that instead. But like I said, no CarPlay support. So that's one unfortunate thing, but that's how you set up Apple devices inside of the Chevrolet Blazer EV. Setting up Android devices is the exact same process. So what you're going to do is hop into your phone, and I've got this phone that's currently connected. If you hit the little swap button there, that's going to bring you up to this screen instead. You're just going to hit plus, switch phone, and we want to add in a new phone. So on this phone, what you're going to do, hop into your Bluetooth settings, same idea, looking for the vehicle name, and you're going to connect. Take a second to make it happen, and PIN numbers match up, so we're going to hit OK and pair. Look at that. Fully connected. Do I want to allow access to my contacts and my messages? Again, this is not my car, so I'm going to say no to that one. And I am fully connected. So if I wanted to, I could hop in, have first to connect. And the benefit there is that if you've got multiple phones connected, it's who's going to get connection priority. So you could select it this way. You can say what type of connection you're going to get. So Bluetooth calling, you can disconnect, completely forget. You can hit this button in order to get to contacts, favorites in your dial pad with your current connection and battery level along the top right side. You can easily swap devices this way as well. So if you wanted to switch phones, you could do that. So you could essentially either be hooked up to one or the other. This one's saying no to that because I selected no when I first set up the phone. But it's straightforward and you can easily swap phones this way. And again, like I said, you've got the option of hitting options, first to connect. So if the vehicle recognizes both phones are in the vehicle, it's who's it going to try to connect to first. So it's that straightforward setting up phones inside the vehicle. And very similar to what we saw on the Apple side of things, there's no Android Auto capabilities inside this vehicle either. Now, having said that, this screen is essentially a big Android device anyway. So you could go to the Play Store to download things like Waze if you wanted to, additional map applications and things like that. Spotify's there, Alexa, and a few other things. So you can run off your phone for phone calls, for messages and things like that. Use Google Maps, etc. through the infotainment system itself. So like I said, while it's very disappointing that Android Auto, Apple CarPlay aren't in the vehicle, there are definitely some workarounds that are available. You could adjust contacts and things like that this way. You could hit this button along the very top, go to options if you want, so you can either disconnect or completely forget phones. So it's forgotten the Android, and then same idea, forgetting the iPhone. And it's that simple, being able to set up Android and iPhone devices inside of the vehicle. From here, hopping back home, you've also got your Google Assistant. So that's going to be this assistant. You could hit the voice command prompt along the steering wheel in order to make it happen, but you could also say, hey Google, in order to be able to adjust the assistant that way instead. And like I said, so many things. You can adjust your climate and a number of other features. There's the Play Store that's available, so you can easily sign into the Play Store there. You do have to. There we go. So you're just going to pull it up on your phone and Google, and that's going to give you the flexibility to be able to sign in. And it's going to ask you, are you sure you're signing into a car? I'm going to say yes to that one, and you're signed in. So you can now hit done there. It's going to take a second in order to actually be able to connect. There we go. So as you can see, there are a ton of different apps that are available. So you can download Waze into the vehicle if you want to. You can explore all the apps, and these are all of the apps that are available that you can download. So things like ChargePoint, if you wanted to be able to find charging stations inside of the EV, all sorts of other things that are available here as well. So Android System Web View, so many different options are available here. So again, you can really kind of download it and customize it to make it your own. You can download iHeartRadio. Google Maps is already installed. There's an FM radio finder and things like that as well. So Audio Wagon is going to give you more flexibility for USB connections as well, specifically for USB audio. But it's a really useful system being able to download additional apps. Like I said, Waze would be the big one for me, and not being able to connect to Android Auto, Apple CarPlay. That's definitely one feature that I would absolutely make sure that I use. You've got some additional climate control settings here, which we've seen that earlier. You can get to it through the screen here, or if you hit this button and then up, that's going to launch you into your climate control settings there instead. And then there are a series of different settings available and tons of things. So connections, you can see phones that were previously connected. I've deleted the two that I attempted to connect earlier. From there are Wi-Fi networks that are available in order to download updates and things like that. A Wi-Fi hotspot is also available. So you do need a data plan through GM to make it happen, but you can essentially use this as a wireless hotspot. So you can connect your phone directly to the vehicle instead if you want to. Really straightforward doing it. And then from here, series of different vehicle settings. So you can adjust your audio, which we've already seen. You can customize your drive mode as well. And where that really comes into play is exactly that. If you wanted to customize how your unique drive mode feels. So there are a few different drive modes that are available. So if we hit back, let's actually go back home for a second, swipe across, you've got drive modes that are available. So the three unique modes are there. So normal, sport versus snow and ice. Snow and ice will play with traction control and stability control. But then you've got my mode, and that's the one where you can customize what the mode does for you. So what do you want your steering and braking, acceleration to feel like? What do you want the vehicle to physically sound like as well? So you can customize that to make it your own. Honestly, unless you're going to unless you want like more of a relaxed feel for acceleration, things like that, I would say just sticking to one of the normal modes instead works. Sport, unlocks the truest potential in the vehicle. It's going to tighten up the steering. It's going to adjust the brake levels and things like that to really unlock the best possible performance. But it also uses more of the battery. So that's going to be a matter of preference there. Back home and into settings again. Vehicle. You've got your teen driver, so you'd be able to limit the key fob to do certain things, like not go past a certain speed if you've got a kid driving the vehicle. Rear seat reminder. If the back doors have been opened up, you turn the vehicle off, so get out. It's going to remind you to check the back seats. Buckle to drive means that you technically can't drive right away without being physically buckled in. Climate and air control. We've already seen these ones. Collision detection systems, I should say, a few different options. So do you want to get seat vibrations, so actual vibrations in your seat for different alerts, or do you just want to get a beep? And that's the same way here. Do you want to get an alert for automatic braking? So if there's a potential collision, it can automatically brake. If the vehicle recognizes a pedestrian in front of you, it can automatically brake. Adaptive cruise go notifier, nothing exciting there. Lane change alert is a neat one. So along the side view mirrors, if somebody enters the blind spot on either side, that's going to highlight in order to let you know that somebody's entered your blind spot. So very good from a basic safety perspective. Park assist with braking. So that's actually kind of an interesting one. So as you're going to back up, if there's an obstacle behind you don't see, the vehicle can automatically brake for you. Cross traffic braking. So if you're reversing and somebody's coming perpendicular, so from either the left or the right side, it can either give you an alert or it can automatically brake for you. So if there's a potential accident, it does have that flexibility. But you can turn all of these systems off. So if you don't like the additional safety, you can get rid of all of these systems if you really wanted to. From here, comfort and convenience. Chime volume. So if you leave your key inside the vehicle and seatbelt reminders and things like that, it's essentially going to be what level do you want to be at? Rear gate, do you want to have it open up to the max level? You can customize it if you want to, or you can turn off your rear power gate. So it's essentially going to be a manual gate at that point. Hands-free is a really cool one. So it's essentially not a foot-activated swipe, but you walk up to the back end of the vehicle with the fob on you and it'll open up. So let's hop outside and I'll show you how that one works. Just make sure the vehicle's locked first, and you've got to get a little bit of a distance away. Let's go for a bit of a walk here. It's a beautiful day. All right, so you got to get a distance away for a short amount of time. And as long as you've got the key fob on you, all you're going to do, walk up towards the back end of the vehicle. Ooh. Dun, 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 dun. And from here, look at this. See that little light dance going? I'm not touching anything. Automatic trunk. Love that feature. So that's a really cool one. There's also mirror tilt on reverse. So what that means is that if you put yourself into reverse, there you go, you can see there, passenger mirror is automatically tilting. You can have it set up so that it's the driver one, passenger one, or neither of the mirrors tilt. That's going to be a matter of personal preference. Remote mirror folding, so when you go to lock the vehicle, do the mirrors automatically fold in? Do you want to have your rear wipers automatically turn on? So if you're in reverse, so if you've got your front windshield wipers going, and then you go to put the vehicle in reverse, it's automatically going to turn those rear wipers on as well. Lighting available, ambient light is cool. So it's subtle inside this car, but there are a few different ambient light colors that are available. You can adjust the brightness, and you can also link it to your drive mode. And one of the benefits there, so you go into your sport mode, it's going to be different. You go into your normal mode, etc. It's going to look slightly different, but being able to customize the color choice here is pretty cool at the same time. Approach lighting, do you want it animated or simple? So that's really cool. So when you go to approach the vehicle later on at night, it looks really solid, especially with that animated look instead. Power door locks. So with the auto door unlock, do you want the doors to automatically unlock when you shift into park? Yay or nay? Is it all doors, just the driver's door, or do no doors automatically unlock? You have to manually unlock it yourself. Remote lock, unlock, etc. So a few options here. With the remote lock feedback, so when you go to lock the vehicle, do you get a light and horn letting you know? Strictly a light or strictly a horn or nothing? I like feedback myself, so I would go light and horn, but that's a matter of preference. Remote unlock, so when you go to unlock using the fob, do all doors become unlocked or just the driver's door? Let's see, when you go to remote start the vehicle, do the cooled ventilated seats automatically come on if you've got them available, or do your heated seats come on as well? Passive door unlock, when you go to approach the vehicle, so you hit the door handle button there, do all doors become unlocked when you hit that or just the driver's door? Let's see, do you want to get a reminder if you've left your key in the vehicle? From there, notifications, nothing exciting there. Do you get notifications from here? Yay, nay. Apps, yeah. Date and time. Do you want that military time instead? So the 24-hour mode or 12-hour mode? Automatic. So these are grayed out because you're in auto mode right now. So if you deselect, you can then select your time zone. The only time I'm going to recommend getting out of the auto time zone is if you straddle a time zone. And if you constantly find the vehicle switching you from one time zone to the other, you can have it set automatically there if you'd like to, or you can set it manually. And that's the same thing with the date and time. Do you want to automatically adjust? Yay or nay? With the display, you can adjust the display mode. So whether that's night versus day versus auto. And the big difference is that in the auto mode, the vehicle determines if you're in the day or the night mode, just depending on how bright it is outside. You can adjust a few things inside of the cluster, so whether or not speed signs show up, turn-by-turn directions, and things like that. And that's going to be information there. So that's going to be your speed sign recognition. It's going to look different depending on which screen you've selected. So you can push this button in order to get some custom views. But if you want a full walkthrough on the steering wheel, the buttons, and the cluster screen, and even the head-up display, you'll find that down in the description of this video. And back from here, you can toggle the display off that way if you want to. Button push along the top in order to bring it back to life again. And options for sounds, max volume at startup. So that's useful. So if you've got the volume cranked, you turn the vehicle off and then back on again. What level do you want your audio to be at? Profiles and accounts, so we've seen that one. So I'm currently logged in to my Gmail account there. You can add additional accounts or delete the profile if you want to. Sync your data, whatever the case may be. And back. Privacy information. So you can see your location for Android, for OnStar, things like that. Nothing exciting. Privacy statements, ads. There is technically an ad manager here. I personally have not seen any ads show up. Little concerning that there's an ad manager there, so I'm not sure if GM's eventual plan is to show display ads, but as of right now, like I said, there hasn't been anything showing up. Assistant and voice. Do you want to be able to show your assistant there? Yay, nay. And then you've got some basic information. So you can have things like say, hey, Google, in order to activate that car, or the assistant, I should say, and just some other basics. Nothing exciting. Security information, useful if you've got multiple people driving or just if you're security conscious. So you can lock out your profile using a pattern, PIN, or a password. So big benefit there. You're logged into your account. You don't want people to be able to see your previously searched for destinations, your phones that you've got connected, things like that. You can lock it out. You can clear all credentials if you want to as well. Basic system information with a lot of useful things. So you've got your current language. Do you want to be in either English, French, or Spanish? And that's going to be region specific. You can adjust your keyboard as well. Nothing exciting there. Measurement units. Do you want to be in either US or metric? So as you adjust between one or the other, it changes up what's going on inside of the cluster screen. So you can see there switching to US, changes it out to miles, miles per hour, total mileage as well there, versus when you're in metric, and it even changes out the climate along the very bottom of the screen as well. Moving back, quick startup. Yeah, nothing exciting there. Reset options. If you are running into issues with the infotainment system, you can reset it. If you're selling your vehicle, you can erase all the infotainment data, things like that as well. And then you've got storage information, so how much storage is currently left. So if you're downloading apps from the App Store, this is how much space you've currently got available to do it. And then about, currently your build numbers and all that fun stuff. Nothing overly exciting. And that is the basics of all your settings. From there, you've got a Wi-Fi hotspot, which we've seen that earlier. So you could use the vehicle as a wireless hotspot. You do need an active data plan in order to use it. And then with vehicle status here, you've got things like tire pressure, which you can add to the display. So if you want your tire pressure there instead, and then it just defaults to a clock instead. You can have your energy information. So do you want your energy usage or efficiency showing up? And again, same idea. You can add that to your display if you want to. Trip counter. If you want to have that, you can reset your trip counter there. So trip 1 versus trip 2. You can also add it into the driver display. So it's kind of neat that you've got the flexibility to customize that part of the cluster screen a tiny little bit. Not a lot, but then you've got all of the different modes that are available there as well. So again, you're really customizing it that little bit more. There's charging information, which gives you a lot of different options. So big one here would be charge now versus charge later. So if you go to plug in, you'd be able to then charge up, and you can set how much you want to be able to charge up until. If you're using the charge the next day, you're fine to charge up to 100%. But for the most part though, you're probably going to want to be around that 80% mark. And that's again going to depend on how much you're traveling. But realistically, plug yourself in when you get home and you're set to go. And that's going to let you know. So in order to fully charge up, we're looking at 50 minutes-ish, depending on if you're level 1 versus level 2. Then you can also do a charge later if you want to. So if you plug in at home and you don't want to charge up until maybe like 6 o'clock p.m. or 7 o'clock when you know you're going to get cheaper rates, you've got the flexibility to do it. And then you've got the option for preconditioning your cabin as well. And the big benefit of preconditioning is exactly that. How hot or cold do you want it to be inside your vehicle for preconditioning? So if you're going to charge up, you want to precondition so that when you hop into your vehicle, this is what the cabin's going to be like when you hop inside. Really, really nice. Actually, let's just go back to charge now. From here, you can also sign into your My Chevrolet account in order to be able to find charging stations, which you can realistically find just by going this way instead. Back to charging, you can also create a schedule for when you charge. So you could select your current home charging station location. So you go to set yourself up at home. When do you want to charge? So let's say if you know that Monday to Friday, you're going to get cheap electricity rates, you can charge up to a certain percentage there at a certain time. And same idea, you can precondition there as well. So if you wanted to have your charging complete by, so you plug in, you want to be done by 8 o'clock, save and close. We've got one schedule created. You want to have another schedule created for Saturdays and Sundays, and maybe you want to charge up to 100% on the weekends, and you want to precondition your cabin as well. You can then save and close there. So you've got that flexibility, and then you could button press there if you wanted to delete the schedule. So again, very useful if you want to save up in order to charge up during certain charge times and charge windows. So you could create a unique schedule if you want to. Very useful if you wanted to precondition your cabin, and then if you only wanted to charge during off-peak times when you're going to save money that way. You could also button press here in order to select your charge locations. Charge cord type, are you charging via level 1 versus level 2? And then actually that's an interesting one because you've also got the option for reduced charging. So if you've plugged in and you find you're not charging properly, you could then also select different options here. So you could go maximum versus, and the big benefit there is that if you're plugged in at home and you're not getting a good power draw, or if it's not charging up properly, you could then reduce it that way instead if you wanted to. Let's see, fast charging prep, you could start the vehicle getting ready. It's actually interesting. If you're going to do DC supercharging, you can get yourself ready for that supercharge. You could set your preconditioning temperature, preferred charge times, the same idea. When do you want to actually be able to charge up? So you've got a few different ways that you can set this schedule, and then when you actually want to charge as well. So weekdays, if you just want to charge all day, or do you want to be charging at a specific window? So weekday preferences, if you know you're getting cheap electricity rates from 7 p.m. until 6 a.m., you've got the flexibility to be able to set your schedule there instead. So you've got a few different ways that you can adjust this, but the default is just going to be for the vehicle to charge up all day instead. That's the basics there. Basics, that's a lot of info about the EV charging side of things. There's the option for your camera as well. So you've got your forward-facing camera with an overhead or a side view. Kind of neat. You can go backup camera with your standard overhead, side view, or a unique hitch view. So very useful if you're backing the vehicle up in order to hook up a trailer. You can see there are a few options available, top-down views and things like that. So if you go overhead view, top-down, yay, nay. So you can kind of adjust these based off of the current view that you're in, but I like the camera quality overall. I'd say it's pretty solid. You've got a few options for controls. And controls, you've got things like controlling your head-up display, where you can adjust the brightness, the height, and the rotation of the head-up display as well, or you can toggle the thing off. So you've got your head-up display showing up there, and it's gone wonky just because of the camera here, but you can toggle it off. You can adjust the brightness. You can adjust the height if you want to. You can adjust the rotation. So again, you're really customizing it to make it your own. If you've got a route going, that's going to show up in the head-up display there as well. If your adaptive cruise control system was set up, that would also show up inside of that head-up display. And controls, dome light is an interesting one. You can do a button press in order to toggle that overhead light on or off if you wanted to. Power window lockouts for the rear. You can get into your camera, high beams, and then park assist as well, so that beeping as you back up. And from there, series of drive modes, which we've already seen. So normals versus snow versus my mode. Sport mode, definitely in my opinion, would be the best mode to use if you want the best possible performance inside the vehicle. But as you change around to different modes, it gives you a very subtle update inside of the cluster screen. It's kind of neat. And if you want more of an understanding of what each mode does, you can just drive into that little info button instead. And there's also ambient light available, which we've already seen. My Chevrolet, nothing exciting. Google News, Amazon Alexa, you do have to be logged into your Alexa account to do it. That's available. Spotify's there, and then Waze, which is a downloaded app. And you've also got the option of customizing the screen. So you can just do a button press until it's free floating, and then you can just drag around in order to customize the layout here in order to really make it your own. So if you wanted to kind of customize the screen a little bit, make it your own, you've got that flexibility. So I know that is a lot of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the infotainment system inside of the Chevrolet Blazer EV.